second set of coding video tapes. This is the second night that we're meeting, and we're going to start talking about Chapter 2. I'm on page 13. We're talking about ICD 9CM conventions. Now, the thing about the word conventions is it has nothing to do with meetings, fancy meetings where everybody gets together and talks about stuff. Conventions in this particular meaning is rules or procedures or policies. So these are the rules dealing with ICD 9CM. In particular, we're going to be talking about the 5 things that you see bullet marks listed on page 13: instructional notes, abbreviations, cross-reference notes, punctuation, and relational terms. Just to kind of give you a basic scenario of what each of those are, instructional notes are simply that, things that they're telling you extra information to help you learn to code. That's all it is. Abbreviations, you can imagine with this book as big as it is, if they didn't use abbreviations, the book would be even bigger. So there are an awful lot of abbreviations that are used, and there's some standard abbreviations like NOS and NEC that you're going to learn the meaning of. Cross-reference notes are when the book, again, as a space-saving mechanism, will tell you to go somewhere else to check this out and see if it's a better code. Or it'll tell you to see something else. So it's just gives you better direction as to where you should be. Punctuation marks have special meanings, and relational terms are a little bit what we talked about last week, the and, with, and due to. All right, now, take a look under general notes. We know that there's a lot of general notes that provide information regarding 5th digits that must be used. It'll tell you in the book that you've got to have a 5th digit. It will either tell you by the little notation that has a check 5th digit to the left of it, or it may have the written words that use a 5th digit, and it'll tell you which codes require 5th digits. So my caution to you there is read the tabular. Because if you don't read the tabular, you're going to miss out on instructions that are really important. Now, inclusion and exclusion notes, they're a little bit tricky, because when you have an inclusion note, you want to think that it's going to list every possible thing that could be included within that code. Unfortunately, it doesn't. All right, as an example, I'd like for you to turn in your tabular, and I'd like for you to find code 008.0. You're at E. coli. Well, I look underneath the 008.00 where it says E. coli unspecified. Underneath that, it has E. coli enteritis. That E. coli enteritis is what we call an includes note, because it's telling you that 008.00 includes E. coli enteritis not otherwise specified. But that doesn't mean that that's the only thing that could fall within that code. There could be many, many more types of E. coli that fall underneath there. And yet, you want something that tells you these are the only things that can be listed here. Now look up at code 008.46. And this time you've got 3 includes notes. And so again, you're wanting to think that, oh, well, the only things that can be coded here are one of those 3 items, but that's not the case at all. Anything else that would be categorized as other anaerobes would also go there. So the includes notes just give you a hint as to the types of things that are there. Take a look now at the top of page 14. Real inclusion notes are always going to have the word includes there. An example of an inclusion note is code 216, a little different one. So take a look at 216. And there specifically it tells you that code 216 includes a blue nevus, a dermatophybroma, hydrocystoma, pigmented nevus, and on down the line. So that's real specific, isn't it? So it's real nice when it tells you that. But you know, it also turns around and tells you what is excluded by that code. Anything that's on the skin of the genital organs is not included, or is rather excluded, from that code of 216. Now, let's say you had looked up the code of 216.4, and there you're looking up scalp and skin of neck. Are you going to have to remember to go back up to 216 and look and see what the includes and the excludes reads before you assign 216.4? Yep, you are.
I would think so.
You've got to go all the way back to the category. Sometimes you're going to have to go all the way back to the beginning of the section, and sometimes you're going to have to go back to the beginning of the chapter to look for includes and excludes notes. And that, again, is what makes it a little bit difficult. Now, the excludes notes tell you several different things, and that's the confusing part about excludes notes, is they can have more than one meaning. Now, notice that in the book on page 14, it tells you that exclusion notes are introduced by the word excludes. All right, that's simple. In most printed versions, they're usually enclosed in a box or shaded. Well, in yours, they're kind of a burgundy color. All right, excluded conditions are always listed in alphabetic order, with the code number or code range that's being excluded listed in parentheses. Look up at code 215.4 and you'll see an example of that. Code 215.4, underneath thorax, has excludes heart, mediastinum, and thymus. Heart, mediastinum, and thymus are in alphabetic order, and each one of those codes has now given you another code that's more appropriate in parentheses. Basically, what an excludes note tells you to do is that this diagnosis is better coded elsewhere. So go check this other one out because it's probably a better code. All right, now the problem is there's a couple of types of excludes notes, and so this is what I want you to be real careful about on page 14. Go to the paragraph that starts out the most common type of exclusion note, and the most clear cut is an indication that another code must be used if there is a specific associated condition. An example, look under 575.0. So flip over to 575.0, and we're talking about acute cholecystitis. Well, there's a whole lot of includes notes under acute cholecystitis to give you an idea of the type of things that are included in that code, such as abscess of gallbladder, angiocholecystitis, but underneath that there is an excludes. It excludes acute cholecystitis.